External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar concludes the annual strategic review of Roadmap 2030 with UK Foreign Secretary Elizabeth Truss. Both parties expressed satisfaction over progress made so far across all sectors. Global and regional issues including situation in Ukraine, Afghanistan, Iran and JCPOA and the Indo-Pacific also discussed. In Pakistan, Assembly session to discuss the no-confidence motion adjourned till Sunday after members of Parliament demand voting on the motion. Prime Minister Imran Khan claims foreign conspiracy to oust him from power. United States rubbishes Imran's claims.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
India. Ni hao.
Salam India.
Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Nous
sommes land.
Nahnu hunud.
India.
माँ हिंदी हस्ती
Mung Hindian yu.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Edition of Pariksha Pe Charcha at the Talkatora Stadium in New Delhi today. The program will be telecast live on Doordarshan. And in sports in IPL, Lucknow Super Giants defeat Chennai Super Kings by 6 wickets at the Bourbon Stadium in Mumbai. Today, Kolkata Knight Riders to take on Punjab Kings at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Good morning, welcome to this broadcast. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. Our top story first. UK Foreign Secretary Elizabeth Truss on Thursday met with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Both sides held bilateral consultations and conducted the annual strategic review of the Roadmap 2030 agreed between the Prime Ministers during the India-UK Virtual Summit 2021. The two ministers expressed satisfaction on the progress achieved so far and agreed to further intensify efforts to deliver results in priority areas of trade and investments, defence and security, migration and mobility, education, science and technology, climate cooperation and green energy.
The Roadmap 2030 has progressed quite substantially, still a lot to be done. In all of this, of course, we've had geopolitical situations, quite apart from the COVID, which had its impact earlier. So there's a lot that we need to talk about, but there's also a lot that we need to work on. So it's in that spirit of your presence inspiring others to work harder that I welcome you. And I'm particularly pleased that we are doing the Strategic Futures Forum.
Now, Liz Truss on her part said that deeper ties between Britain and India will boost security in the Indo-Pacific and globally and create jobs and opportunities in both the countries.
It's very good to be back in India for the third time in just over a year. And it's great to see you again, Dr. Jaishankar, and to be able to progress our roadmap 2030, which is of great importance to both of our countries. And it's very important for the United Kingdom that we are improving our economic, our security and defence relationships, because we are living in a more unstable world. And that's why we are strengthening our work with India, who we see as an absolutely critical partner at this time. We're discussing issues like cybersecurity, defence cooperation, and increased economic cooperation, including the trade deal we are currently negotiating. And what we need to do at this time is strengthen our domestic resilience, and I hope we can accelerate all our work despite all the other things that are going on around the world. I think it is vital that we keep going.
Now, on the issue of Ukraine, India reiterated that the immediate cessation of violence and return to dialogue and diplomacy is the key to long-term peace in the region. Dr. Jaishankar added that the real crisis emerging from this standoff is yet to hit.
The real problems are still to come, certainly for our part of the world. We are seeing the impact of the conflict on energy prices, on commodities. There would be other disruptions if the financial world is disrupted and the logistics world is disrupted, and the markets are in a turmoil. I mean, all of this is going to have consequences in the rest of the world.
Liz Truss, however, called for more sanctions as well as increased pressure on Russia to cease its actions in Ukraine.
UK wants to see more sanctions put in place on banks, on the ability for Russia to use gold, closing access to ports for all vessels around Europe and the Americas, and also tackling the dependency on Russian oil and gas, because ultimately it's oil and gas that is funding Putin's war machine, and we need to cut off reliance on that, and we need a timetable to end reliance on Russian oil and gas. So
the two sides also discussed the implementation of the Migration and Mobility Partnership, which has the potential to bring the people of both the countries even closer. They also discussed the modalities of instituting the Strategic Tech Dialogue to enhance cooperation on new and emerging strategic technologies like 5G, artificial intelligence and quantum. The two ministers agreed to resolve legacy issues and deepen defence and security cooperation, including in defence co-development and co-production, and enhance capacities to address growing threats in the cyber, space and maritime domains. India welcomed the UK's interest in participating in its national defence manufacturing programme through Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. They agreed to consult intensively on this. They also emphasised the need to retain strategic focus on the Indo-Pacific region, and in this context, India welcomed the readiness of UK's side in undertaking activities under the Maritime Security Pillar of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, or the IPOI. IPOI is an open, inclusive, non-treaty-based global initiative that was announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the 14th East Asia Summit in November 2019 to promote collaborative efforts among like-minded nations to better manage, conserve, sustain and secure the Indo-Pacific maritime domain. Both ministers also participated in the inaugural edition of the India-UK Strategic Futures Forum, a new 1.5 dialogue mechanism for expert deliberations on long-term strategic links and expanding the horizons of the bilateral cooperation. The ministers also had the opportunity to exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. On Ukraine, India reiterated that the immediate cessation of violence and return to dialogue and diplomacy is the key to long-term peace in the region. On Afghanistan, both sides highlighted the need for Afghanistan to have unhindered access to humanitarian assistance and that Afghan territory is not to be used by terror outfits for destabilizing the region. Iran and the JCPOA also featured in the talks. They discussed matters related to the Commonwealth and the UN Security Council too. During her visit, UK Foreign Secretary also met with Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Now, coinciding with the visit of the UK Foreign Minister, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived for a two-day official visit to India on Thursday. It is the highest-level visit from Russia to India after Moscow launched its military offensive against Ukraine on the 24th of February. In New Delhi, Lavrov will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Earlier, MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi posted a video of Lavrov's arrival with the caption, and I quote, welcoming the foreign minister of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, as he arrives in New Delhi for an official visit. Lavrov arrived in India days after a visit by China's foreign minister Wang Yi, who too discussed the Ukraine crisis with his Indian counterpart. And moving on, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has reiterated his claims of a foreign conspiracy and said that a foreign nation is trying to oust him over its independent foreign policy choices made by him. Addressing the people of Pakistan ahead of the no-confidence motion, he claimed a foreign nation sent a message that Imran Khan needs to be removed, else as the country will suffer with consequences. Meanwhile, Pakistan's National Assembly was supposed to take up the no-confidence motion on Thursday evening. However, the Assembly session was adjourned till Sunday.
आठ मार्च को या उससे पहले 7 मार्च को हमें एक अमेरिका ने एक बाहर से मुल्क ने, मैं नाम मतलब मेरा कि किसी और बाहर से मुल्क से हमें मैसेज आती है, ये है तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर के खिलाफ ही सिर्फ, लेकिन ये हमारी कौम के खिलाफ है। मुझे जो इससे सबसे ज़्यादा तकलीफ है वो ये नहीं है कि ये उस मैसेज में वाज़ेह ये लिखा हुआ है कि जनाब अगर ये जो अदम एतमाद, और उनको पहले से पता था, अभी एतमाद या दर्ज नहीं हुई थी, उनको पहले से पता चल गया कि अदम एतमाद की आ रही है पाकिस्तान के अंदर, ये ऑपोजिशन रखने लगी है। तो इसका मतलब कि ये जो हो रहा था ये पहले से ही इनके बाहर की लोगों से राब्ते थे।
On Wednesday, the Imran Khan-led coalition government was reduced to a minority after the MQ-MP switched sides. The party joined hands with the opposition. It now supports a no-confidence motion against Imran Khan. The Balochistan National Party has also withdrawn their support to the government. Imran Khan also met the army and the ISI chiefs on Wednesday and chaired a special cabinet meeting amid calls for his resignation. Moving on, Prime Minister of Nepal, Sher Bahadur Deuba, will arrive in India on a 3-day visit today. This will be the first bilateral visit abroad by the Prime Minister of Nepal after assuming his office in July 2021. A high-level delegation will accompany the Prime Minister. The PM of Nepal will call on the Vice President and hold talks with the Prime Minister. External Affairs Minister and NSA will call on the Prime Minister of Nepal as well. Besides official engagements in New Delhi, the Nepalese Prime Minister will visit Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. India and Nepal enjoy age-old and special ties of friendship and cooperation, and in the recent years, the partnership has witnessed significant growth in all areas of cooperation. The upcoming visit will provide an opportunity to both the sides to review this wide-ranging cooperative partnership and to progress it further for the benefit of the two peoples. In other news, President Ramnath Kovind will pay a week-long state visit to Turkmenistan and the Netherlands from today. This will be the first ever visit of the President to Turkmenistan. The visit also comes just after the inauguration of the new President of Turkmenistan. During this visit, President Kovind will meet the new President of Turkmenistan, Sardar Bermedumhumadov, to discuss various issues of bilateral and regional cooperation. Turkmenistan visit will be followed by a state visit of the President to the Netherlands. This visit is significant as during 2022, India and the Netherlands are celebrating 75 years of the establishment of diplomatic relations. In Netherlands, the President will hold discussions with King William Alexander and Queen Maxima and also Prime Minister Mark Rutte. The Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, Dr. L. Murugan, and Lok Sabha MP Dilip Ghosh are part of the delegation with the President. Well, back home, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with students for Pariksha Pe Charcha today. The Prime Minister will be talking with students, parents and teachers in the 5th edition of Pariksha Pe Charcha at Delhi's Talkatore Stadium.
The wait is over. It's that time of the year. Pariksha Pe Charcha is here.
अगर आपको फोकस करना है तो पहले डी फोकस होना सीख लीजिए।
क्वेश्चन पेपर आने के बाद बस पिताजी के स्कूटर को याद कर दीजिएगा कि हम विफलताओं में भी सफलता की शिक्षा पा सकते हैं।
The 5th edition of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's live interaction program, Pariksha Pe Charcha, is set to be held on Friday in Delhi's Talkotara Stadium. The program will be broadcast live on Doordarshan and All India Radio.
बच्चे ने आके कह दिया हो कि टीचर ने मुझे डांटा, बस हो गया।
पहले मेरा बेटा पढ़ाई में बहुत अच्छा था, लेकिन अभी कुछ समय से ऑनलाइन गेम्स की तरफ उसका झुकाव कुछ ज्यादा ही बढ़ गया है।
ये पबजी वाला है।
More than 12 lakh students, 2.71 lakhs teachers and more than 90,000 parents have registered themselves for the event. The program will focus on some of the key questions on examination.
जब कठिन को अटेंड करेंगे तो सरल तो और भी आसान हो जाए।
आपने क्रेडिट मुझे दे दी, दरअसल क्रेडिट आपके माँ बाप को जाती है।
परीक्षा के अंक ही जिंदगी नहीं है।
For students, the themes will be varied like exam stress management strategies, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Clean India, Green India. Pariksha Pe Charcha is part of the larger movement, Exam Warriors led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to create stress-free atmosphere for youngsters. This year's Pariksha Pe Charcha is not just expected to be bigger and better, but also become a mass movement that is driven by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's effort to bring together students, parents, teachers and the society to foster an environment where the unique individuality of each child is celebrated, encouraged and allowed to express itself fully. Tapush Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
On to developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Peace negotiations between Moscow and Kyiv will resume today amid mounting Western skepticism about Russia's intentions in the talks more than 5 weeks into its attack of Ukraine. A Ukrainian negotiator has said the talks would continue by video, focusing on the peace framework that the Ukrainian side presented during a face-to-face meeting in Istanbul this week that Moscow described as constructive. Russia's foreign ministry said Moscow would not refuse a separate meeting between the foreign minister Sergei Lavrov and his Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba, providing the talks between them were substantive. Kyiv and its allies have cast doubts, however, on Russia's commitment to talks, noting that there had been no real sign of the partial military pullback in northern Ukraine that it had promised as a goodwill gesture, and suggesting that the Kremlin may be playing for time. Leaders from European Union and China are due to hold their first summit in 2 years later today, and the war in Ukraine is expected to dominate the discussions there. Now, the power struggle between Ukrainian and Russian-backed forces in Mariupol continued on Thursday near a production plant that has become the last major stronghold for Ukrainian soldiers in the besieged port city. The ongoing fighting in Mariupol, located in southeastern Ukraine on the Sea of Azov, has turned it into an arena of constant urban warfare. Once a city of over 400,000 people, Mariupol is now one of the most dangerous places in the country. Subject to constant shelling, the city has no running water, gas or electricity, an additional obstacle for the remaining residents in their battle for survival. According to the city mayor's office, around 140,000 people had fled the city before the siege began over 3 weeks ago, adding nearly 5,000 residents, including children, have been killed so far. Given the extent of the fighting on the streets, the exact figures have proved difficult to independently verify. Meanwhile, Russia said that a humanitarian corridor would be opened on Friday morning to allow civilians out of the besieged port city of Mariupol in southeastern Ukraine. According to a statement, the decision came after a personal request from the French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the situation in the south and the Donbas region remained extremely difficult and reiterated that Russia was building up forces near the besieged city of Mariupol. And in a rare sign of internal dissent, Zelensky also said in a video address that he had sacked 2 senior members of the National Security Service on the grounds that they were traitors. Zelensky, who often uses colorful imagery, said that the Russians were so evil and so keen on destruction that they seem to be from another world, monsters who burn and plunder, who attack and are bent on murder. Zelensky said that Ukrainian forces had pushed back the Russians from Kyiv and Chernihiv. The 2 cities Moscow had announced would no longer be the focus of attacks as they seek to secure the separatist Donbas and Luhansk regions in the southeastern Ukraine. Now, US President Joe Biden on Thursday launched the largest release ever from US emergency oil reserve and challenged oil companies to drill more in an attempt to bring down gasoline prices that have soared during Russia's war with Ukraine, even as he said that Russian President Vladimir Putin was self-isolating. Starting in May, United States will release 1 million barrels per day of crude oil for 6 months from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
The action I'm calling for will make a real difference over time. But the truth is, it takes months, not days, for companies to increase production. That's why the next part of my plan is so important. Today, I'm authorizing the release of 1 million barrels per day for the next 6 months, over 180 million barrels for the from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. This is a wartime bridge to increase oil supply until production ramps up later this year. And it is by far the largest release of our national reserve in our history. It will provide a historic amount of supply for a historic amount of time, a 6-month bridge to the fall.
U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin's demand that foreign buyers pay for Russian gas in rubles is a sign of Moscow's economic and financial desperation caused by Western sanctions in response to the attack on Ukraine. European nations, some of which rely heavily on Russian gas, have rejected the demand, and Germany's government said that it amounted to blackmail.
Fundamentally, this is just another indication of the dire straits that Russia's economy is in. This is a sign of economic and financial desperation on the part of the Russian Federation. It obviously is going to be up to our European partners to determine what's in their best interests, what's in our collective interests. But this is a reflection of the fact that the sanctions, the export controls, the other economic measures, including the additional measures that we announced today, have had a significant, substantial, profound effect on the Russian economy. That President Putin purportedly is now demanding payment in rubles, something he had not had to do previously. And the delta here, of course, are the measures that the United States, together with our very allies and partners in Europe, have imposed.
Let's shift focus and get you sports updates. Lucknow Super Giants shocked defending champions Chennai Super Kings to win their first match in the Indian Premier League at Mumbai's Brabant Stadium on Thursday. Evan Lewis highlighted the LSG win with a 23-ball half-century, the fastest of IPL this year. Quinton de Kock scored 61 while skipper KL Rahul smashed 40 and Ayush Badoni followed up his half-century against Gujarat Titans with a superb cameo as LSG gunned down 211 to condemn CSK to their second successive defeat in this year's Indian Premier League. CSK had lost the opening match of the season to Kolkata Knight Riders after a horror batting show. And Kolkata Knight Riders will be up against the Punjab Kings in the 8th match of the IPL today. And of course, this will be happening at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Kolkata Knight Riders have played 1 match in the series and they're currently ranked 4th on the points table, while Punjab Kings have also played 1 match in the series and they're currently ranked 3rd on the points table. A new-look Punjab Kings side, dripping with power and depth, hunted down 206 against Royal Challengers Bangalore to kick off their season in grand style. The result didn't go in Knight Riders' way on Wednesday, but they stayed true to their playbook, hitting more boundaries than Royal Challengers. And Team England has made it to the finals of the Women's Cricket World Cup and will meet Australia in Sunday's World Cup final. England recorded a convincing 137-run victory over South Africa in the second semi-final in Christchurch. On the back of Danny White's century and Sophie Excelson's stunning 6-wicket haul, England sailed through with a stunning performance. White hit 129 off 125 deliveries and was ably supported by Sophia Dunkley, who scored 60 in 72 deliveries. Excelstone played her part with the bat as well, smashing 24 off just 11 deliveries. The final between England and Australia will now be played on the 3rd of April, that's Sunday, at Christchurch. And with that, we wrap up this broadcast, but news and updates continue on DD India. Thank you very much for joining us right now. Namaskar.